Before we begin the video, I would like to quickly state that I still haven't played through the entirety of Pokemon Legends ZA.
But to answer the question as soon as possible, I am team DLC, and I prefer DLC to a third game. Now, if you would like to listen to me ramble about cool things about Legends ZA, continue watching the video. After the 3DS lineup of Pokemon titles, Game Freak stopped releasing a third, more enhanced version of their titles and replaced it with DLC instead. Yellow, Crystal, Emerald, and Platinum are considered to be the best of the best, and Black and White 2 were straight up new games. But this decision, in my eyes, ultimately represents a much more consumer-friendly system, especially taking into account the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon situation, if you remember that. And if you actually don't remember, Ultra Sun and Moon were essentially a third, more enhanced version, which ruined the story of the original game because it more or less remade the story. Typically in the past, we only got one exclusive enhanced version, but this time we got two of them, and that really muddied the waters for a lot of people, especially considering that the changes Game Freak made weren't even that good. I personally am always hyped for when Pokemon DLC is announced, because we get a whole new adventure slapped onto the generation. It certainly isn't replacing the endgame content. Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield still had their fair share of endgame content, even though it was a bit too little. Having said all of this, I wasn't really hyped for the Legends ZA DLC. It's honestly so frustrating that Nintendo announced Legends ZA's DLC before the base game was even out. It leaves us feeling like parts of the game were intentionally being cut out just to be sold back to us later, instead of being included from day one in the base game. That killed all the hype. I mean, Game Freak and Nintendo are companies after all, they have shareholders to appease. But come on, at least keep us living in the illusion that you care about the customer. Legends ZA announcing DLC before release and the backlash they got is exactly why publishers avoid doing this. I did some researching post-factum and found out the reason why the DLC for Pokemon and even Donky Kong were revealed so early on. The quick answer is because of the internal delays of the Switch 2. Bloomberg reports that the Switch 2 could have launched earlier.
Game Freak even got a memo of this.
In this image, Super is the Switch 2, and as you can see, it had an original release date of March of 2025. Titan, in this case, is Gen 9 Scarlet and Violet, and so many people, me included, think that a March release seemed to have made more sense, just like, you know, the original Switch was also launched in March of 2017. The delays were allegedly driven by Nintendo's own designers who requested more time to perfect first-party games launching with the console. And despite of that, there is evidence that points towards many Switch 2 games being already done way before even the original launch date for the Switch 2. So Pokemon had enough time to cut content and sell it to us later, right? Actually, that's not how DLC gets made. Most companies don't explain how DLC is actually being made, and most players don't care enough to dig into it. Golden Owl has an amazing video on the topic, and I'm going to link it down in the description. So go check it out as soon as possible. But to summarize, game development has roughly 3 stages. The first one being prototypes and pre-production. That's the stage where developers experiment, pitch ideas, get thrown around, work with the publisher or publishers begin to define the scope, and the future of the game isn't even guaranteed in this stage. That's why DLC doesn't begin here, it's not even planned here. I'm using Turtle Bro's video for footage, so go check his video as well, please, please, please. It's such a great watch. It's really interesting on the matter of the early stages of the Legends ZA game. That whole information that he gathered was contained within the Terra leak. What struck me the most about his video was that ZA began with fully 3D modeled buildings. The developers at Game Freak actually did a monthly development magazine sort of thing while developing the game. It was only supposed to be internal and not for the public's eyes. We get this magazine from the Terra leak. From what the developers wrote, we can gather that Legends ZA went through a chaotic and unstable early development phase. It had a lot of dramatic internal shifts, with the developers not even fully realizing what kind of game they actually wanted to make. One word that can describe the early development is just instability. Development kicked off sometime between 2021 and 2022, right after Legends Arceus wrapped up. Game Freak usually does multiple projects at once, so this is the early "what even is this game" stage. At this point, they were mostly figuring out Lumio City, how big it should be, how dense, how vertical, and how you even turn a single city into an entire game. Experiencing the whole game through Lumio City alone was an aspect that was sure from day one. Back on the topic of game development, production processes is the second stage. Teams build the game in parallel departments, like the art department, design department, engineering department, audio department, etc. The most interesting thing, and the thing that stood out the most to me in Turtle Bros video, has to be the stage when there was a sudden shift in ZA's buildings, when the 3D detail was just removed for good. From the magazine, you can even see how disappointed the devs felt about this decision. I'm just gonna play the clip because I cannot do the original video enough justice. Please go and watch the full video.
After a few more UI updates, we reach January 17. Get a good final look at these buildings, because our next update from January 26 would reveal that these building textures had suddenly gone 2D. It may or may not be a coincidence that this was the first month where we didn't get a written monthly issue, only these visual changes through screenshots. This is one of, if not the saddest day in the entire development timeline. All that rich building detail was completely stripped to this flat wallpaper texture. The team made a valiant attempt to compensate and make up for it. I mean, the Pokemon Center does look really nice, but alas, it was a small return for a massive downgrade. This must have been a devastating internal setback. Even early February notes suggest the developers themselves were unhappy with the January changes, and judging by the rest of the timeline, there were no intentions to reintroduce the fully modeled buildings.
From here on, it seems that the development of visuals was mostly about controlling the damage that was made, making the city still look good despite the downgrade. And you know what? I love how Lumios looks, I'm not ashamed to admit it. This game made me appreciate real-life buildings even more. Actually, you can still see remnants of the original 3D detail present in Legend ZA. Like here, for example, or here, or here, or on some major buildings. The bank, the hotel, the city hall, the school even. Did you know that Go-Goat was actually supposed to be fully rideable at one point? If you did, you most likely watched the full video. Go and watch Turtle Bros' full video. It's so good. By mid-2024, the game was feature complete. What follows is over a year of polish, optimization, and debugging, the most refinement period for any Pokemon game. Alongside the Terra leak, some playable builds leak as well, but they're buggy, unstable, and clearly weren't meant for public use. Still, Legend ZA was basically done way earlier than most Pokemon games ever were. And that brings us to the third stage of game development: public versus internal release dates. ZA was supposed to finish development in June of 2025. Most importantly, this is the stage where development on DLC begins, in the so-called post-launch phase. But can DLC be cut content? In rare cases, yeah. But usually content moves to DLC because of production limits. Stuff initially planned as paid DLC is usually decided way in advance, meaning it was never part of the game to begin with. With knowing all of this, it makes perfect sense now why we got the announcements of the DLCs so early. The second delay of the Nintendo Switch 2 was to blame in my opinion. But still, isn't it kind of weird that Emerald Rush, DK Bonanza's DLC, and Mega Dimension, Pokemon Legends EA's DLC, are so similar? Both were announced around and revealed in the same Nintendo Direct. DK's announcement came super close to launch, while Pokemon's DLC announcement came before launch even. The insane part is that both of these DLCs remix their base games into these timed, replayable challenge modes. With varying quality, of course. Okay, back to the topic. Why? Why did Pokemon do this? Why did they announce and release this overpriced optional content so close to release?
Legend ZA's DLC was announced now because this is the best time for it, or rather, the least worst time for it. Next year is the franchise's 30th year anniversary, and Pokemon Day is in February. Gen 10 is absolutely getting announced there, and there will likely be many other high-profile game announcements too. That leaves an incredibly small window to announce and build hype for the DLC in. There needs to be trailers and hype build-up. That requires time.
Please go and watch the full video. So yeah, the announcement came early, but that was just the least bad option. And at the end of the day, would I buy the DLC? Well, first I have to play through the whole game in order to make that judgment. Oh yeah, my ADHD brain forgot to tell you why I still haven't finished the game. It's because I'm playing it in Japanese. I am using it to actually further me forward. I am really enjoying the game in its original language. I love the music, I'm in love with the characters. Sad thing is, I only know their Japanese names. Like this is Deuro. This is Puru. I'm currently at the Mafia part of the game with the cute little short king, and I'm really enjoying how the story unfolds. Actually, the way I study from the game is pretty simple. I make flashcards with Anki, and actually now I'm switching over to Migaku. Migaku, please buzzer me. I'm having the time of my life just doing something real productive. Back on the topic, would I buy the DLC? On paper, the DLC sounds so good, but from what I heard from people, it's super boring. Mega Dimension, more like mega boring. Maybe if I became a hardcore ZA fan after finishing the game, I could do so, but as of right now, my answer is a hard and large... Yeah, of course I'm going to buy the DLC. I almost forgot that this video was about the topic of getting DLC versus a third version. Okay, so Mega Dimension doesn't really feel like a third version to me at all. From what I've seen, it feels like the Rainbow Rocket episode post-game in the Ultra games. Still, in comparison to a third game or third games, I personally would take DLC any day. Gen 9's DLC is my all-time favorite piece of Pokemon content. I love the story around Ogerpon and its Momotaro inspiration. The other new Momotaro Pokemon are funny as well, especially the furry dog. You can access Kitakami early, and after finishing the main story, Kitakami actually scales up, making it essentially post-game content as well. Kami can actually mean a god in Japanese, a spiritual being, but in this case I imagine it more like a pun. Kami can also mean like up or something high, and Kita is north, so I imagine it like the North Highlands, and that is an actual area in Japan. But being a pun, it can also mean the god of the north. I adore the Blueberry Academy. I am so glad we had to return to Unova in this generation. Gen 5 is my favorite generation, and Gen 9 is my second favorite gen, and it's so cool that we got a mix between both of my favorite Pokemon games. I love how it expands upon the Kitakami story and a new way in the Academy. The terrarium is like a little vertical slice of Paldea. It has all the things that make Paldea Paldea, visual bugs and all. Plus, the Alola-inspired region with Clay's daughter as the one challenging you there is genius! I love the vibes to that area so much, and the music there, with the Driftvale City leitmotif, always has me coming back to listen to that one single leitmotif. I loved that song before it was cool. That being said, DLC works because we pay less as well. We don't have to rebuy the same game for a second time, you know. Instead, those who want more story, more cool music, and more cool new Pokemon can even carry on with their original save data and have a cool extended post-game-like experience. So yeah, I want to replay Gen 9 now. So yeah, thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed my content, subscribe to the channel and also check these videos out as well. And with that, それではまたね. Bye bye!